So in general, when you're yin deficient, you can present with a lot of fatigue, like you're kind of frail, you run out of energy easily. But very interesting, remember that balance, right? So it's a very interesting thing that happens, because when you're super yin deficient, for example, the other side of it can spike sometimes, so it can be confusing. Actually, menopause is a great thing to talk about. Oftentimes women during this very natural cycle of life, a lot of times it will present with night sweats, right? Hot flashes. That's yin deficiency.
Today we have a Chinese medicine and herbal master on the show. And she's bringing 9 generations of wisdom around physical and mental emotional health, so we can learn how to better our overall health and our relationships. In this episode, you're going to learn about the basis of Chinese medicine and how to apply it into your life. You see, it's all about balance. And naturally, when you're out of balance, disease begins to manifest. So the question is, how do we get ourselves into better balance? Dr. Jenelle Kim teaches us it's not just physical, it's not just mental, it's not just emotional, and it's not just spiritual. It's a combination of all of them. And she teaches us her pillars to integrate into our lives for a better, healthier overall self. Not to mention, she gives us some incredible tips on how to raise healthy-minded children. Dr. Jenelle Kim is a leading expert in integrative wellness. She blends ancient and healing traditions with modern science to promote holistic well-being. She's a board-certified herbalist and master of acupuncture, and she brings centuries of wisdom into health practices. She's the author of Myung-Sung, the Korean art of living meditation. We're going to go over the most important approaches so you can feel better after you listen to this podcast. Thank you for joining this episode of Heal Thyself. To support the show, please rate, review, and subscribe. It gives us the opportunity to really expand this knowledge to people who need it most, and you can do your part by just sharing the love. Again, thank you for listening. I'm forever grateful, and I love you all. Let's get started. Okay, Doc, welcome to the show. I love Chinese medicine. Mm-hmm. I've loved it more recently. I didn't appreciate it as much in the past, which I probably should have. But man, y'all figured something out. No wonder it's been around for so long. And one of the things that blows me away is that Chinese medicine is so powerful, but much more simplistic. They don't complicate everything the way we do in American medicine and look at everything so complex. And they understand the bigger picture. So I'm thinking of this. I'm in your office, I'm walking in. You say that you're already reading me.
Yeah.
What does Chinese medicine look for in people when they see them as far as their health? Can you tell how healthy I am just by looking at me?
Yes, and I do it by nature.
How?
I always say that's my favorite thing, is I do it so innately now that it's not even something where you walk in and I do like a whole scan. But the truth is, when you walk in, I do a whole scan.
Wow.
And first I want to just take a moment, because you said something that is very important to me in all aspects of life, that you're right. It can be the most profound and complex, but it is so simple. Mm-hmm. And I am just on a whole mission to, in my own personal life, but also to share that so often I'm seeing that we overcomplicate so many things. Mm-hmm. Like, why do we make life harder than it has to be? I don't understand. Mm-hmm. And it is something that we can root ourselves in. And I believe part of it is because it has existed for so very long. It can be a very natural way of setting in. This has existed for 10,000 years. Let me be very clear here.
For a reason.
Yeah, for a reason, because it works. So, all right, where do we even begin? Okay, so, we go through a set of questions when you sit down with us when we are in clinic. Now, I have not been in a clinical setting for quite some time, because that's a whole story we'll probably get into. The world is kind of like a clinic to me, being able to share my formulations through my labs and everything that we do on a very big scale with people who might not even know to go into a clinic. But if you were to walk into my clinic, for example, we have a set of questions that goes through every single thing. And every single time you see us. Isn't that a funny thing? So I'll start here just to give a little glimpse, because not a lot of people do know this, and so I appreciate it. So that comes down to how you sleep, your digestive system, the emotions that you're feeling, but it goes through a set of very systematic questions, which I won't go into all of them right now, but just to get an idea, right? We look at your pulse, we look at your tongue, and it's our way of diagnosing what is happening on the inside. But so much of what we do is observing you, right, as a human being. And we're changing all of the time. And Eastern medicine acknowledges that, our ancient medicines do. And that's really important to remember, right? That's why it's rooted in balance. So I'll answer your question. I kind of went backwards here. Everything is rooted in balance. Everything I talk about is about the balance. That's the Tao, right? The universe. First came the Tao, and then from the Tao came yin and yang. Okay. And so yin and yang, as we know, is that symbol that many of us know. 20 years ago when I talked about these things, Dr. Gonzalez, people thought I was crazy. I like meditation. That is weird. All these medicines, I believe in them. I was like, well, it's interesting you believe in medicine that's existed for 10,000 years, but cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But I bring up yin and yang because that's the first thing that I think naturally I'll look at in somebody. So just as it applies to nature around us, which means that dichotomy, what that symbol shows is things are always changing.
Yeah.
That dichotomy always exists. And we apply that to the way our bodies work, to how we interact with each other, to the things that happen around us. But in our body, that's probably the first thing that I notice, right? So I'm going to stay there for a second. That dichotomy is so important because I do think this is one of my favorite things about Eastern medicine. Because before you even learn about the body and the meridian systems and the organ systems and all of the things that we think of when we think of medicine, we first learn the principle of yin and yang, the Tao, yin and yang, right? So just like there's day and night, you can't know happiness without sadness. You cannot know success without failure. Feminine, masculine, they don't exist without each other. The same thing is in our body, right? So yin is, in short, the body fluids, your blood, the organs, it's like the substance within your body. And yang is qi, or vital energy. And so that's where everything begins, okay? And this literally, we could sit here for years talking about this. That's the truth. So when someone first comes in, there's different characteristics that tell me without even noticing, but I kind of file it as a human being where you're at on that beginning, even fundamental level of that balance, if that makes sense. So yin can be deficient, yang can be deficient, meaning, that balance is off a bit. Yin can be in excess, yang can be in excess, and that's how we talk about. Are you more of a deficient human being? Are you more of a, excessive? Very interesting. And it can apply to every area of your life. So kind of in summing up here, when we first sit down, by nature, I see all of this right away. I see it in people's eyes. I see it in the way your face shape, your body shape, your constitution, meaning we're all born with a certain constitution no matter what we do in this life, right? Are you thin? Are you not so thin? Do you have more of a redness to you? Are you pale? All of these things kind of in one moment in time help me to understand upon the first glance what type of person you are and what things might be a little bit imbalanced.
Beautiful. The basics already covered.
Where do I begin?
Now we understand Chinese medicine.
Yes, right. And I have to say, it's traditional Oriental medicine. I'll tell you why. Because it's all rooted in Chinese medicine. Yeah. But I come from Korea.
Yes. Yeah.
And so my ancestors would be like, excuse me.
Oriental medicine.
And so, are you kidding? It was rooted in Chinese medicine.
Right.
But why oftentimes people will hear me say traditional Oriental medicine is because Korea in particular, my lineage included, which by the way, we have Chinese doctors and practitioners, masters in my lineage from far, long ago, but Korea took herbal medicine and acupuncture and kind of would advance it in certain ways, for lack of a better way of saying it, or took it, expounded upon it.
Oh, okay. Expanded upon it. So that's what they're doing in Korea.
Yeah.
Okay. So, traditional Oriental medicine.
Yes, you can say either, but I have to acknowledge.
Okay, cool.
My ancestors will come find me.
Yeah. So I've went to traditional Oriental medicine doctor and she did my pulse.
Right.
She was checking out. It was interesting. I just see her looking, interesting. Right. And then she's like writing something down, and then she's looking at my tongue. This is the moment I believed in this medicine.
Right.
She asked me a set of questions.
Yes.
Some of them I was like, oh, why did she ask me that? What does that matter?
Totally.
But then she did these hands-on tests, and she didn't know anything about me.
Right.
She didn't read any labs.
Right.
And she pinned like physical, mental, emotional to the T. And I was like, okay.
Absolutely.
I've bought in now. Like,
absolutely.
How did you know that I was suffering with these things?
Right.
And
yes.
and how can a pulse or a tongue tell her that something was going on with spleen deficiency or something like that for me?
Which I could see.
Yeah, which you could see.
I mean, you're very healthy. That's why I'm not going to call anything out, but I think that's kind of where we wanted to know a little bit. But that's also part of our constitution.
Yeah.
It's all the things, meaning our genetics, our characteristics, our spirit, mind, body, spirit, all of it. But it can be, just unbelievable for people to understand. But we have to remember, let's go back to 10,000 years ago. One of my favorite things to acknowledge is that these doctors, practitioners, they didn't go to school like we did. We started the conversation by saying how much schooling we had to go to. To this day, it still is like, I don't know if I can go to school. Again, it's a lot of schooling. But way back 10,000 years ago, a couple thousand years ago, even hundreds of years ago, but thousands of years ago, just picture, they were the Taoist immortals, which I think you'll appreciate this, Dr. Gonzalez. I talk about this because I say they're their original biohackers. Okay, the Taoist immortals. I love even starting that when I speak, teach, whatever it might be, because it grounds me. These people, these individuals, these human beings, just like us, we're all human beings, what they wish to understand is to be immortal. So here we are just trying to, be beautiful for a really long time, healthy, have wellness. They literally wanted to be immortal. That means they never wanted to die. Let's get this clear. And so they started understanding Qi and the way the system worked based on Tao and Yin and Yang, exactly what I just explained. But how they did so is that they looked around in nature. This is a legend that's been passed down because back they didn't have books, they didn't go to schools, I already said that. But I think it's so beautiful and it's the best way to understand our body, in my humble experience and opinion, is that they looked around, they saw how the rivers would flow, they saw how everything would grow, the trees, the grass, and they started to think, I wonder if the way I see nature working is how my body works. I mean, that's beautiful. And that's how they first started to understand and why we even have these diagnoses, which came later on. But kind of to break it down, going back to Eastern medicine, Traditional Oriental Medicine 101, is that we have meridians that run through our body. We don't have to know every detail of that. That's my job. But we can picture circulatory system, right? Most of us understand. We can kind of have some idea with our arteries and our veins and our hearts and our valves that blood flows through our body in a set systematic way. Well, the same thing happens with that yang aspect of vital energy, or qi. So we have meridians that connect to every single organ system. And those organ systems obviously work together. And blood and qi work together. Okay, so blood is the substance. One way of thinking of it is qi literally pushes your blood. And so just like they looked out in nature, just as rivers flow and over time, maybe some debris starts to gather. Maybe some trash is thrown into the water. Maybe a tree falls down and it blocks that river. And then what happens when you start to have all these things build in a river system? That water can't flow anymore. The same thing happens in our body. It's stagnation, the number one culprit for all bad things, as far as I'm concerned.
Stagnation.
Yeah. Mentally, physically, spiritually. We never want to have stagnation. We always want function and flow.
For sure.
So kind of in conclusion here, the way you can feel those things is through your pulse, for example, on your tongue. It shows when there is stagnation, when there is, picture the water again, right? So here, let's say you're really blocked. You have a serious stagnation. It's become a blockage. So here water builds, right? It's like a dam. And here there's nothing. Well, you can feel that in the body. You can feel it in yourself. A practitioner, a good doctor can feel that. You can tell when something is off and where it's off, because each one of these pulse positions has organ systems. And that goes on and on and on.
Okay, so that's why she was feeling, not just in one area, she was moving her hand
Same thing
around.
on your tongue. Your tongue, there's certain areas or certain organ systems, and also like in general, your body type that you can see. It's kind of mapped out on your tongue.
Brilliant. I love that. The immortals are my heroes.
Yes, me too.
Because
it's like my lineage.
Yeah, it's so beautiful that there's a group of individuals who actually reasoned very correctly that we're not separate from nature.
Yeah.
And therefore nature in itself is expressing just like we are.
Yes.
Like that's real spiritual connected medicine.
Yes.
That's the art of medicine that we lost a long time ago, at least conventionally speaking.
Yes.
And so thank you for telling that story. This is something that I've never heard about. And actually, you're making qi be understood much better, at least for me, the concept
now
of
I can
it.
Rest. I'm just joking.
And now you can rest.
Sure.
Okay, so we talked about the pulse in the wrist, but like, I want people to be able to relate to this. And now this is where people are going to start getting up and go to their mirror. Okay. What if someone has a dry, cracky tongue? What does that mean?
It means you're deficient in yin. So here's the thing. So I can certainly go through these things, but then I also like to not overcomplicate, because then people will go and get all scared and start doing all the things. So I will answer your question, but then we will zoom out a bit to see what we actually have to be aware of in our daily life, not as a practitioner or a doctor of Eastern medicine. But anytime it's dry, cracked, usually it has a lot to do, especially in Western culture, with digestion. I mean, really anywhere. There's different schools of thought, if you will, of medicine, if you will, in Eastern medicine as a whole. And one of them is like the spleen and stomach school, the digestion, your middle. And that is something my lineage very much pays attention to. And quite frankly, Eastern, Western, comfortable here, Eastern, Western, we all look at this, you know? I do also want to state that I think a lot of people assume that I would be like, no Western, no conventional, no modern medicine. And that is completely inaccurate. Let me be the first to say there's absolutely a place for that. And there's absolutely a place for Eastern or our ancient or our holistic medicines. We have to find how to balance it together. But yes, in general, if you have that dry, cracked, it's usually related to our digestion. It's for a stress. Like stress, how much yin, like remember I said, is like your body fluids. So just make it super simple. Yin is our body fluids, the blood in our body. So when things become deficient, you can picture like soil getting all dried up. It starts to crack and gets dried out. Well, the same thing happens in our body, right? And we might not be able to see it yet on the outside, but we can start to see it on the tongue. I can start to see it from characteristics that are presented, from how you sleep to how your digestion works to how you act emotionally, how you're able to handle things. I mean, all of these things relate in that way. So,
okay, so someone who does have that yin deficiency, is that what it was?
Yes, but that's where I hesitate because it can be so many.
Oh, it could be just so many
more
things. Okay, so
but in general, yes, that's a fluid yin blood deficiency.
Blood deficiency. How do they usually present emotionally? This is your year to feel your best, and I mean that really from the inside out. Our bodies have this incredible ability to renew themselves, but as we age, this process starts slowing down, and that is where I discovered something game-changing. MitoPure. What makes MitoPure special is it's the only clinically proven supplement that helps your cells clean out and renew themselves. The only one. It's like a reset button for your cellular health. And what really blew my mind is that people are seeing double-digit increases in muscle strength and endurance without changing their exercise routines. And I've seen it firsthand. I've been using this for quite a while now, actually. I use it every day. I took 2 this morning, and it's real results. Better energy, faster recovery, overall feeling really vital. I actually have a lot of energy. I feel like I have too much energy from taking it. It feels really, it's like one of the best supplements. I just showed it on my live the other day. It was right in my supplements to be taken in the morning, and I was talking about it. This is a really touchstone product that I use, and it's really about becoming in this year the new you, right? That inner strength, the resiliency, the you who wants to be consistent. Yeah, it's there, right there for you. Work on your mitochondria. Timeline is offering you 33% off of your order of MitoPure while supplies last. Go to timeline.com/DRG33. That is timeline.com/DRG33. And I want to talk about something that may be holding you back without you even knowing it is a magnesium deficiency. You know, over 75% of Americans aren't even getting enough of this super crucial mineral. It's involved in over 600 biological interactions. Every part of your body loves magnesium. And what makes this magnesium special, magnesium breakthrough, is that it has 7 different forms of magnesium. And this is really important for maximum absorption because not all magnesium forms do the same thing. You want a full spectrum one to support your sleep, weight loss, stress management, healthy blood sugar levels. These are all really key to having an overall feeling good in your body health. So if you're ready to transform your health, I want you to go to bioptimizers.com/DRG. That is bioptimizers.com/DRG. This is something that I've been using for so many years. It is a go-to. I recommend it for everyone. My family uses it. And the code is DRG10 for 10% off of any order.
Well, when you're deficient that way, and this is why I'm showing, a lot of people will just go and answer this, but I'm very careful because remember, I come from this lineage of masters and you think through before you ever say these things. But I also understand communicating this. Okay. So in general, when you're yin deficient, you can present with a lot of fatigue, you know, like you're kind of frail, you run out of energy easily, but very interesting. Remember that balance, right? So it's a very interesting thing that happens because when you're super yin deficient, for example, and this is one imbalance that can happen amongst so many, I can't stop saying that, but really interesting, when you're super deficient, the dichotomy, the other side of it can spike sometimes, so it can be confusing. So sometimes actually menopause is a great thing to talk about. What we see and this is very in general, But in general, we know that oftentimes women during this very natural cycle of life, which is another whole topic I can speak on, we all walk through it. It's not some sort of horrible condition. It's part of life. And when we understand these things, it's better for us to be able to move through them and balance with them. But a lot of times it will present with night sweats, right? Hot flashes. That's yin deficiency. But isn't it interesting because it feels excessive, right? But it's your body because you're deficient in that area, which a lot of women, again, in Western culture, especially, us women, I'll join myself in that, but I'm so grateful to have this medicine and these tools.
Yeah.
When you are on the go, you constantly doing and expending your energy so much, you very, very easily can fall into that category. And that's just literally, I'm not even beginning to state all of the things, but if that makes sense, right? So
yes. So it can bounce back in another way.
Yeah.
That makes it look like maybe something else, which that adds all of the nuance to being a practitioner, to not just be like, oh, this is low, let's treat that.
Exactly, which is why I'm careful not to just say like, oh, you have a cracked tongue, that's bad digestion.
It must be this. Okay.
It could be your upper jowl. I hesitate sometimes to start talking about like your heart, your lung, because you can freak people out like that. Because remember, the way we talk about in Eastern medicine, the organ systems can be very serious, but we talk about them in a different way as well. So if we're telling you you're heart deficient, or you have heart Qi deficiency, a lot of people, I would imagine, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a heart attack, I'm going to die. I'm like, no, that is not what I'm saying. So,
Okay, so just in the simplistic way, with all the pieces maybe put into like simplifying it as much as possible, what if someone's tongue is really fat and wet and it has all the scalloping on the sides?
Well, guess what? Doesn't that feel like that would be like excessive?
Too much.
Right? Too much? Yeah. No. In fact, that's all deficiency. That's all middle jiao, your middle spleen deficiency, especially what you just stated. But now the excess or the too much will come from, okay, here we go. We're going down this road. So when your digestion's not working properly, what can happen is something that we call dampness. Okay, you can see it in people. Sometimes you see the people, and I'm going to be very extreme right now, who are more heavy set. Sometimes you can like tell, wow, and that's a whole other thing, but I'm taking it to the extreme, right? Where things just aren't moving in their body, and you can observe this, but that's now a deficiency. Again, that's now there's that extreme. It's now presenting with things that seem as if they are more excessive. So now your digestion is not working properly. Your Qi is not producing. That flow and that function is not working properly is what it always comes down to. And so now you have something like I just mentioned called dampness. Dampness can make you not hungry. It can make you not eat properly. It can slow down your metabolism. It can make you feel tired and fatigued. It's literally, think of dampness. Like it's literally, that's where when you're sick with a cold, right? And you have phlegm or mucus. I'm trying not to be too graphic here, but by nature, that doesn't bother me. So let me know if I'm going too far. But that's dampness, right? And then from dampness, if it gets too bad, you have phlegm. Now that dampness, that's a bit of, some stagnant fluid, things aren't working properly, becomes phlegm, which is much more copious. It's much more, it's much worse for your body. It's harder to remove.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Right?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. And I'm thinking about how, I'm just thinking about like it's raining here, right?
Yes.
So it's sort of kind of like parallels with that nature experience, right? Like you can feel that in the body.
Yes.
And which leads me to think, how much does Eastern medicine take into account what's the environment you live in?
Oh my gosh,
does the environment infect your constitution?
100%, everything does. That's where it really is all so connected. It's such a beautiful thing. Fast forward even 20 years from when I first began really sharing these things. And people are much more aware. But I think also we get so caught in the detail sometimes that we forget we forget what we're saying. Often mind, body, spirit, mind. Yeah. And I do it for myself all the time too. My teachers taught me this, is that often let's stop for a moment sometimes and think about what we're even saying, what that means. Mind, body is connected. They really are connected. Mind, body, spirit, us with nature. That is feng shui. We think of feng shui, that's also becoming popular, how we set up our house, don't put your bed. But guess what? Feng shui very much is the environment you live in. By nature, us as people might even find the environment that we live in, whether we don't always get to live wherever we wish to live, but by nature, you'll even find certain places that are good for you.
Yeah.
or they'll affect you in a not so great way. But yes, Florida is a great example.
Florida.
Let's think of Florida, right? So it's like usually pretty, even compared to San Diego where I grew up, is very warm all the time and very damp. And by nature, I'll never forget one of my greatest teachers, Dr. Alex Taberry. He's no longer with us. All the great ones. But he was one of my first teachers, very well known in the Eastern medical community. And he described, and he sizzled this into my mind, was, you think of Florida, you go there, or you go in these hot, wet, damp environments, and you just naturally get slower a little bit. It's a little bit slower of a pace. You go to Hawaii, they're all a little slower. They're not so, and that's a funny way of understanding it. But I think helps to understand that much more of how we are connected, what our environment is. And again, like I said, that is actual feng shui.
That's actual feng shui.
Well, it includes all of that, I should say.
Yeah, my Chinese medicine doctor, she said, Christian, you do best in dry climates in the desert.
I can see that. I can see
that.
Because by nature, you could have a propensity towards dampness.
Dampness. And someone, let's say, who has a propensity towards dampness, what do they struggle with?
Well, it could be fatigue. It could be digestive issues. We can go into, what that goes much further. Again, I don't know how graphic we want to get. That could be emotionally also. It's a lot more stagnant. It can be even the word that comes to me, and it's more extreme, a little more sluggish, right? You can't pick yourself up. You can't go so much. And then that's where you have to be careful, because now if it's lasting too long and you're not rebalancing this or taking care of yourself on a daily, which is what we're all setting out to, and people are understanding this more and more in this culture, now you can start to have other, like that excess heat from deficiency starts to come up. You get a little rosy in the cheeks. You get a little bit of, maybe you start to have some anger, frustration things happen. Fiery.
And that's a reflex imbalance of things. Yeah. That's the yang coming up.
The yang. Well, yang rising is a more extreme version of that. But yes, you can see that. Yin is deficient, so yang is too much.
Something's got to come.
Isn't that a beautiful? I'm so happy we're talking. I rarely talk about these things in this detail, so I'm grateful. But and one of my favorite things is I'm more of a visual person myself.
Yeah.
But I encourage people to picture that in their brain, just like that. Like literally, just think of yin and yang, like your little bar graph here.
Yeah.
And when yin is like this, yang goes like this. So the whole point is, even in relationships,
balance.
Even in stressors that come from work. Literally, if we can just visualize that is what I wrote a whole book on it called Living Meditation. I teach the 3 M's or the 3 pillars, which is medicine, movement, meditation, but I mean living meditation. So now I'm starting to say mindset because I need to get it. That's my biggest job. But yeah, that we look at everything that way. Everything is about balance.
Everything's about balance.
Everything.
It's the way of nature too, right? Like
yes.
You go back to the immortals, they were studying nature. They'll probably find balance as one of the first things,
yes.
And
everything was about that.
Okay.
Finding that balance.
So based on this Eastern medicine perspective, what are the things that imbalance our body the most? I've been thinking about my evening routines lately, and what I noticed is that I really had a lot of the practices down. The resting my body, reading a book, but I wanted something to help complement my sleep. And that's when I discovered Cornbread Hemp's THC gummies. Now, a lot of you know about THC gummies, but a lot of THC gummies are not pure and clean and high quality. What I love about these gummies is that they're the real deal. America's only USDA organic THC gummies made with a perfect 1-to-1 ratio of THC and CBD, but the best part is you ain't gonna have no hangover. It's pure relaxation, drifting off to sleep. And really the thing that impressed me is that they're 100% legal, made with no synthetic ingredients, clean, organic goodness that is gonna help you find your calm. If you're ready to upgrade your relaxation game right now, Heal Thyself listeners, you can save 30% on your first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/DRG and use the code DRG at checkout. That is cornbreadhemp.com/DRG.
Those 3 pillars I talk about.
Yeah.
That's why I think that my biggest role, I'm always learning, I'm forever a student, but my biggest role is learning how to communicate. I'm 9th generation in my lineage, and I'm the first woman in my lineage to share these practices and tools and the medicine and all these things. And so it was a couple years ago, I believe that one of my duties is to kind of help it. I don't even like using the word categorize, but I can be very logical as much as I'm connected. It's yin and yang. And so I started thinking of it in that way. So how do we, because it's funny, it's like I have to work backwards. So to the Taoist immortals, to the teachers in my lineage, to my own teacher, my greatest teacher was my father. He very much lived this way. And so to them, it was all one. But when I go to share this, I've broken it down into, I'm going to say it again, the 3 M's, medicine, movement, and meditation, which is the mindset, the living meditation. What they promised us, basically, these are my words, but I watched it. I saw it with my own eyes, and I felt it for lifetimes. That's the truth. But what they did is they devoted their lives to further understanding the human mind, body, and spirit, the human condition, so that we have practices and tools that can help us to achieve beauty, wellness, mental, physical, spiritual health, all the things. And what they promised was the way that we can kind of continue to do this, but it's a continuous process, is by practicing these 3 pillars.
And remind me the pillars.
Of course, medicine, which is, right, answering your question a little bit more in detail. Of course, food is the best medicine. Huge on that. The supplements we put into our body. That's my day job, I say. I create supplements carried by all the brands out there. Topicals, the skin care, the hair care, the beauty care. I do that as well. But it's all these things matter so much in our life. That's the medicine aspect, literally in like 2 sentences. Movement is medicine. All of this is medicine. And I've started to go out to teach this aspect that I didn't think I'd be doing so soon in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy to be doing so. What I teach is Qigong. Again, it's that understanding of cultivating is what Qigong is, the consistent study and cultivation of Qi within our body. It's everything we've been talking about. But movement can be, in my humble opinion, and what has been passed down for centuries upon centuries, is that movement can be one of the quickest ways that we can balance our mind and body in any given situation, and spirit for that matter. Because we physically, using certain techniques, like I teach the ones that have been passed down in my lineage, you teach certain techniques. Breathing, I know you're huge on this, and I love that. Breathing is one of our best medicines. That's why all of a sudden now it's like everywhere, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. Breath is Qi. That is your energy. So if you can quickly ground that, if you can quickly center that, cultivate that, you can very quickly, especially with specific techniques, and Qigong is so easy. You can do it seated in a chair. You can do it standing. Then it can start to go into more martial arts type forms. But Qigong is, you could do it, no one would even know. And it's a way to rebalance those meridian systems in the same way as taking an herbal formulation. Okay? Then the third, mindset, living meditation, is our mind. It's vital. So they're all 3 important. How we think. In fact, in this day and age, I think that the practice, the training of the mind might even be, I don't usually make statements, might even be more important.
Okay, the training of the mind.
You can never let go of the training of the body. That's why I'm trying to make a strong statement here.
Yeah.
But it is so incredibly important to train our minds.
So when you speak about training the mind, what are the most important tenets to training the mind? How do we approach training our mind? Because, we have this book that tells us to do this personal growth. This book says this is mindset. This one is for habits.
Right.
It can get overwhelming.
Absolutely.
How do we simplify it so we just can sort of keep our mind in balance for these 3 pillars you said?
Okay, well, so here it goes. We have the 3 pillars, and my book is the 8 keys of living meditation. But that is what's been passed down. And we can memorize. I would prefer for us to absorb, not memorize. That's how I was taught these 8 keys, because it's a constant practice. That's why I called it living meditation. We know for the most part that sitting down to meditate is important. But why are you stopping just then? Every single thing that we come across in some way, shape, or form is like a meditation. So going back to what you said, whether you absorb or read the 8 keys of living meditation, it all comes down to, well, the first key, which is know your true self. Now, that is an ongoing process our whole life. But that means we have to be aware of ourselves. No matter what path, no matter what book you pick up, no matter what principle resonates with you, it all comes down to knowing ourselves better, right? Everything, the only thing in this whole life that we can control, no matter what we think, is ourself. We think we can control all the other things. And there's many other ways of understanding spiritually, faith, religion, or not. But really it all comes down to the only thing in this entire life that we have any true control over is our own self. And so that means you have to know yourself. And that can be the most empowering thing in the world, and it can be the scariest. Because when you point outwards, whether it's blaming someone else, and I'm being extreme here to kind of get it in our brains, putting it outside, that is where we start to lose control over our own mind and body and spirit. And even though in the moment it's easier to do so, it's this food, it's this habit, it's that person, it's this experience. Basically, you're taking everything, all the power out of yourself. And that is where I really believe, I know, we have so much of mental health imbalance right now. Panic, anxiety, depression, we're so disconnected. It all has to be connected. And so that's the kind of the foundation of it all. And furthermore, so always checking in, always taking that pause. For me, that does come with a breath. That is the mental, physical connection. No matter what happens in my life, I've trained myself, whether it's with my boys at home. I have a 7 and 11-year-old, whether it's in business, whether it's with, family or friends in the community, or things that are happening that are stressful. We can always take a breath. I don't care what anybody says. It's worth it. Even if we have to move quick. And believe me, I can move quick. But you take that moment and then you ground yourself. I'm kind of giving a tip more than I'm going to explain. And then with that breath, you open up your mind. That's what it feels like. And you train yourself. Let me just take a moment here to see what's in front of me. And then you either react or respond. That's what's helpful for me in what I write in my book.
Respond.
And why that's important to me and for those that resonates with, I've literally put meaning, purpose, intention behind those 2 words. Literally, when I tell myself that word react, it means based on emotion. I'm jumping, right? And sometimes we have to do that, but be careful when we do that, because if our whole life is reactionary that way, it's all based on emotion. And emotions come and go. The way my father taught me was, 1 minute you're hungry, you're so hungry. Say you haven't eaten for days, you're so hungry. The moment you eat, you're not hungry anymore. Or love, or whatever that might be, it can come and go. But that consistency, how do we respond? So I've literally taught myself also that word respond, even when I say that does something to my chi. It does something to my nervous system. Respond, Jenelle. Do not react to this right now. We have to constantly talk to ourselves. This is another practice. And then you realize that response is that balancing with. It's that yin and yang, no matter what we do. The food we choose to eat, the skincare we choose to put on our bodies, how we wish to parent our children in a relationship, it all comes down to that.
Being able to stop.
Stop.
Taking that breath. And letting that breath permeate through the body. And then you can ask yourself. And I love that you said that's another practice. We have to talk to ourselves.
Oh my God, so much. I tell people all the time, just have a little conversation with yourself.
Just have a conversation. Yeah. But I love that the fact that we can, over time, assign a deeper meaning to react.
Yes.
Or respond.
I love that. I find it incredibly helpful in my life.
Yeah. So you know what react means to you.
Yes. And I teach my boys this. Can you imagine at the age of 2, I started teaching them this?
That's great.
Like literally when they could talk.
That's great for self-regulation.
Oh my gosh,
being able to like, when with parents raising children in this mindset, how do then they balance but I want my boys to be able to express emotions too, because a lot of times boys grow up not expressing emotion. How do we find that balance of teaching them, okay, does it feel true to respond? Does it feel true to react?
Right.
And how do we keep them in the integrity of their emotional expression?
Well, the most beautiful thing I love about this medicine and all 3 of these pillars, and I just want to say it out loud, is it truly is natural. It's about being natural in life. And I think that, that's an easy thing to say, but it's something that I focus on a lot as well, because we can very much get into all the detail can pull us away from that. Now we're, oh, no, we have to be this way. I'm spiritual, so I have to do this. Like, I just sit back like, what is that? That's just literally the opposite of what, meditation is or spirituality is or all of these things. So it really does come down again to awareness. I believe in this moment in time, you asking me this question when I check in with myself, how I raise my boys, because it is incredibly important to me, is I have them constantly check in and they have an awareness of themselves. And that awareness also brings another thing that I tell them all the time, a thoughtfulness. So it starts with you, but then it also affects everyone around you, right? So when you're aware of yourself and how you're acting, our chi, the second I'm in a room with you, let's be aware of this, right? I can feel how I'm feeling. We know that if someone were to walk into this room, almost everybody, if you took a moment just to be present and pay attention, and someone walked in, they were super, super upset, uptight, all of that, you could feel it. They don't have to say a word. You can feel it. That's called chi. It's an awareness of yourself. It's an awareness of others. That's also very much a part of living meditation. And so going back to what we were saying with my boys, I have an 11-year-old now. He's a good boy. He is, but he's still a boy. He does things. Are you kidding? I was with him. I took him on this trip and I was like, boys. And I will tell them, the truth is I'll say, mommy's not really a nagging type of a woman. Like, it's not my thing. And I'm curing myself and I'm annoying myself right now. I'm being naggy and I don't like that. Like, please stop making me uncool. I'm joking, but seriously, they're like, what, Mom? I was like, okay, I need you to take a moment, and I will do that. Like, take a breath, like, be cool. Do you think that you're acting like grounded right now? Or are you acting all hyper and, being kind of annoying, to be honest? And they're like, I see it, Mom. I'm being funny here because I want to make a point, and humor does do a lot of things, but that's kind of how I teach them. Are you being more extreme than you should be right now? Like, get yourself together, pull it together, take a breath, calm your mind. Go sit over there and go read for 2 minutes, whatever that is. Go do some movement. They know how to do these movements. They have since they were young because they see me do them. You know, so the best way to say it is there's never one. The hardest thing about our ancient medicines is that we want to find these very black and white answers. But the nature of yin and yang, the nature of the Tao and the universe and being human is it is not black and white. It is constantly changing, equals the yin and yang sign. So I have to teach them awareness, and then start to teach them when they're off. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Now it's not just me watching myself. Now I have to find the time. I choose to find the time, no matter what I'm doing, to sit and educate them, constantly communicate with them. That's what it takes.
And it's always in flux, even year to year, and hormones to hormones, with children growing. And
absolutely.
So what I'm hearing is that as we have better awareness of ourselves, we're able to have better awareness for our loved ones, our children.
Absolutely.
And then in that awareness, bring more awareness to themselves.
Yes.
It's sort of like generational healing in many ways when we choose to bring awareness to ourselves, because we're creating self-awareness for our children and an identified sense of self too. A lot of kids don't grow up ever having self-awareness because they have to be outside of themselves.
Absolutely. Or their parents are, we live in an age for sure where thank goodness, on one hand, we're so much more aware as parents than the general. I think we all can agree, used to be that you just run outside, they'd close the door, come back at 8 p.m.
Right. I remember those
I joke around even about water. My kids constantly were like, where's your water? Where's your water bottle? None of us drank water. Like, I don't ever remember having a water bottle. Were we just running around dehydrated? Who knows?
What happened to that actually?
I don't know.
It's funny you say that. I never drank water as a
drinking
kid.
water. And I'm like, did we ever drink water? I don't know if we ever drank water.
I have like 3 juice boxes and I survived.
It's so funny. I'm like, well, we survived, so I probably don't have to be so extreme about the water bottle thing.
Right.
It's a funny thing, but it's the truth. But what happens then, and believe me, I watch my boys all the time, but it is, especially when it comes to parenting or relationships, obviously it's different, but kind of same. How much do we let someone teach, this is children, teach them enough that they can watch themselves? That's how I was raised. My father always taught me self-guard. You have to watch yourself. I can do everything in my power to teach you these principles, the same ones I'm sharing right now. But at the end of the day, you have to watch yourself. I cannot do that for you.
Yes, because you're not going to be over hawking your child all the time.
No, and when we do that, we create an imbalance.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, I was outside riding my bike, and sometimes in my head I'm like, how is that okay that I was outside all day?
I know.
On my bike across town.
I hear you. No, obviously,
going through highways
unfortunately, things have changed, but that did something to us, It made us learn. We learned how to live.
We were so self-reliant when we were younger.
Yes,
it was crazy.
So important.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible that you talk about.
So important.
Yeah, okay. So how does the person viewing and listening, at least from your perspective, burnout? People are burning out. They're becoming overwhelmed. I know, they're working, and then when they put the work down, they're on their phone and social media and scrolling and blue light and all the stimulus.
Yes.
If I came to you and I said, look, doc, I'm just burnt out. You look at my tongue, do my pulse. But is there anything lifestyle-wise that you immediately go to and say, hey, you got to do more of this and you got to move this out of your life, or at least calm it down?
Yes, and I really appreciate this because this is something that I am very aware of lately because it comes up with my life a lot. I have a lot to balance. And for the most part, I do feel like, I'll go backwards here. To me, it's an energy thing. We've been talking about this the whole time. But if you think of it in terms of chi, where do we expend our chi? Burnout is a very real thing. And let me be the first to say that, there's times when I'm with my kids and I'm on my phone because I have to work. I choose to work. And I communicate with them why I'm working. They know this very well, and then I have to prioritize. Every moment, you have to reprioritize. That's the truth, and we have to be kind to ourselves. And this is a brand new thing for me to say. I come from a martial arts lineage, okay? This is very extreme. I'm like a warrior. But I've come to find with wisdom and life experience that oftentimes, most of the time, being a warrior in this life, which is what I want to call this, all of us doing all of the things, wishing to balance, not burning out, it really does come from, again, I keep going back to this, being aware of ourselves, knowing that, that's why I come right out and say it. I don't put down my phone when it's dinner time. I cannot. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. There's times that I have to make choices, but in each one of those choices, I practice that living meditation. What is the most important thing for me to do right now? What can I do right now? And to some extent, by recognizing that it's always a balance and having certain things that I know my main priorities in life, and my goal, my mind is always set on those, right? But then I also know that I live in the Tao. I'm not joking. And people who know me know this, meaning I don't make it so much harder on myself. We kind of said this before. So if I have to be on my phone for a moment to handle something important with my kids, because we're on that topic, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. You know, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't go to sleep because it's like you have to talk to yourself about these things. It's okay. It's all about that balance. So being a little bit more specific, it is a lifestyle. Longevity, health, ultimate beauty, optimal beauty. It's a lifestyle. So I do a lot of things to nourish myself so that I don't burn out. That is the way, going back to that pillar of medicine, I eat very balanced. But guess what? Another thing that I do that Western culture I don't think is very good at, I eat consistently throughout the day. When it comes to 12:30, these are some examples, you better believe I'll be eating. Anyone who's with me or around that time, I will have eaten something, because that is one way that I know to nourish and supplement my chi so that I can prevent, because food is truly one of the best ways we can have medicine. I take my supplements. I put clean beauty care that, of course, I create, so I'm lucky for that, onto my body. Okay, so I'm already setting myself up in such a way in my daily life that I'm able to handle more.
Yeah.
You know, as my father taught me, get a bigger bucket, Jenelle. That's what he used to tell me. You have a little bucket, get a bigger bucket. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, 9, what are you talking about? But but I understand now. So that's one thing we can do. Movement, I'm going to go back to those pillars. I know that when I'm feeling, as I said before, this is one of the most powerful medicines. When I am feeling exhausted, if I'm feeling a little bit stressed, overwhelmed, and it happens to me, I will go and I will take 3 minutes to do my movement anywhere I am. I mean, you could catch me doing it right right over here. I'll do my breath work. I will do my certain techniques of Qigong, right? And that mindset is constantly playing in my head. And so I'm answering you on my own personal life, because what better way to be authentic and natural in this of how I'm able to do it. And what that does, again, the way I think of it is, it's, as I said, prioritizing constantly. Every moment, you just have to sit back, take a breath. What is important to me right now? You know, and that's something I've had some things happen in the last couple of months that have really had me focus on that. Now, I lost my father tomorrow, actually. Oh, wow. I just got like a knot in my stomach 9 years ago. Can't even believe it's been so long. And that is significant, because 9 is new beginning, you know, in numerology. But that is, I say that he gave me the greatest gift, you know, losing him in the way that I did. Which sounds so crazy, because he's my everything. I mean, literally my everything, my teacher, my father, and my everything. And it was very sudden, and I was with him. And so what that taught me is that life actually truly is short. You know, and I'm getting less afraid, even though I'm still disclaiming right now, of saying that, because I don't want to leave anyone with that kind of down, heavy feeling. Yeah. But I cannot tell you how much that's helped me in life. Literally, we don't know if we will be here tomorrow. And when you live your life that way, you make certain choices, much different than if you don't. So if you find yourself tangled in a conflict with another person who matters to you, you know, let's stay there for a second. Stop for a second. It's always your choice at the end of the day. I don't even think I've mentioned that, but one of the foundations of all of this, the living meditation, how can we balance? How can we live a life that is calm and all the things, is we always have to, again, look back at ourselves and anyways, okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far down.
Yeah. No. I can really appreciate that. And thank you for using that lens of your life that we can relate to. Because, you know, there's dads, there's moms listening to this show. They have the kids, but, you know, they got to do some stuff online, and then they back to the kids, and really like, whoa, how do I keep this balance? If what I'm hearing, again, it comes back to like you said, prioritize, right? What is the most in this moment? You just reminded me, and what resonated was the loss of your dad. And it's like you hear it so many times, right? Like, live today as if you're going to die tomorrow. Right. And, you know, it kind of doesn't really stick until you see someone who you love actually die. Yes. You know, and when my mom passed, it wasn't overnight. It was years. I mean, it was like years of degradation, but like then it was like months where it happened over time. But I can imagine the impact, and for all the viewers and listeners who've actually witnessed this, of having a sudden loss. What the heck? I was just this morning talking to, or last night, just talking to, you know, I have a close friend whose dad had a heart attack right next to her, and she was a kid. Yeah. And that changed her life.
Absolutely.
She was young enough that it was like, I don't understand what's happening, but also old enough that she has a very clear
left
memory.
A seed. And how can I say, you make it that. I don't know, how do you put this in words? I choose to constantly remind myself of exactly what you're saying. I'm so grateful so that I can keep growing from that, because that would be his greatest wish and my greatest wish.
Yeah. So if we have that perspective that, okay, let's say one day I'm going to die. I think I'm going to be old, like a grandparent, and have grandkids. Of course. That might not be
God
true.
Willing. Yes.
I worked in oncology. I saw that to not be true for many people.
Yes.
And how do we keep reminding ourselves, like if we have a conflict with someone we love, it's very easy to be like, oh, I'm right. And I'm just going to leave it like this.
Yes.
And not ever come back to the perspective like, this might be your last conflict you ever have in your life.
Absolutely. And that's what I was saying. If you think of it that way and you stop yourself, sure, life happens. We have little conflicts, we work through them. Yeah. But if you're really finding yourself in a moment that feels very extreme, or if something is just is becoming super stagnant, I highly recommend that you step back and you think this way. Because it will, I find that it almost like cleans the slate a little. Mm-hmm. We get so attached. A word I have not brought up that that's like very important in life. Yeah. Detaching from things. Detaching, that's like the Enso circle, which is like my symbol everywhere, right? Is the Enso circle is that breaststroke, but it also represents from nothing comes everything. So detachment sounds like we say, you must stay connected. I'm one of the hugest proponents of that. It doesn't have to do with that. When you detach from the emotion of everything, then you actually can have that true love, that true connection to something. You choose to maybe not forget, but detach that's why I love that word. Detach from the things that are not helping, things that actually aren't important. Because guess what? If this person is to be gone tomorrow, is this really going to matter to me? Yeah. Should I hold on to this? Does it matter that I'm right? I was raised that way too. You don't, when it comes to like your immediate family, because I was young, like, why are you always trying to be right? So what are you trying to tell me? You want that person, you want your sister to be wrong? No. Like, okay, well then what's your point? So often we forget, what is my point in this? I just want to be right. I just want to fight. And life gets that is burnout.
That's burnout.
That's burnout. Now you're expending all this energy. We have so much energy that we're born with in this life. That's another kind of chi that I never talk about. It's called your jing, or your essence. That's like, that's what you have. And some, unbelievable, like awakened martial artists and practitioners know how to increase that, but that's a very, very difficult thing to do, to increase that type of chi, because we're all born with a certain amount of it. And as we live, that starts to, go down. And when that's done, we're no longer on this earth. That's what happens. Wow. And that's kind of like, I always liken it to like the person who, again, let's be extreme to really see this, is the person who like smokes and drinks and takes no care of themselves and lives until they're like 98, 100. They have a lot of jing and they're born with that. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. But when you think of it that way, we have so much energy. So like, where are you going to put your energy?
Okay, now I've heard jing. Now I know I heard jing before.
Okay.
What about masturbation? Doesn't that get rid of your sexual energy? Your
absolutely. That if you do that in an extreme amount, absolutely.
Wow.
And or you need to balance that with doing things that are nourishing for your body. It's no different, to be honest. Wow. But yes, that is jing. That's essence.
Depletes it.
Your if you're extreme.
So if so for the people listening who are extremely masturbating, is there jing going down?
Yeah, by principle, yes.
By principle, whoa. So we're literally like,
I feel like you'd have to be pretty extreme about this.
I know, I'm just imagining, but like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. When okay, let's think of it another perspective. Certain martial artists, when they're going through certain training, like iron body training, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this before, but like you're making your body iron, like your certain practices, and during that time, you're supposed to like sustain, like you don't have any kind of release of any kind.
Yes.
Like that's how, for a certain amount of time.
They do that in boxing too.
Yeah.
In different
sports.
There
you go. I love that.
So when I see these videos.
I don't love that, but I love that they do this as well.
When I see these videos, there's martial arts masters. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
They're doing things that are like physically kind of impossible.
Yes.
Or like these practitioners that are going like this with their hands and they're lighting things on fire.
That's what I even teach. Well, I don't teach the fire part. Yeah. That's all. I was like, well, wait, no, I don't teach that. Maybe I should. And I'll be like, whoa, what is Dr. Kim doing over there now? Like, this is medicine.
Yeah. What is that? Is that the chi flowing through them outwardly?
Yes.
Okay, so you can harness and hone in this energy,
Yes.
concentrate it and express it out?
Absolutely.
'Cause
As
I've
a
seen-
martial artist, as a doctor too. You
As
know?
a doctor.
I don't talk about this very much, but one of the reasons it is very important for me to cultivate and nourish my own chi is, of course, for my own health. If I don't exist, I can't do anything anyways.
Yeah.
But it's also when I go and treat people, when I speak to them, when I do everything in my power as a vessel to pass what's been passed down. That's my chi going out. You know, different. I certainly don't want to make it the same. Those practitioners who can do that, there is training, and I come from that lineage.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
It is cool.
I got something for you.
Okay.
What about in the perspective of Eastern medicine, cancer? What happens in someone whose body manifests cancer? Is it all physical, emotional, all emotional? How do you view the expression of cancer in the body?
Wow, you're just really getting right to it. Do you have like some kind of disclaimer that rolls across that?
No. I just want.
Yes, no. And that's a great question. It is all of the above: mental, physical, and spiritual. All of the above. It's an imbalance in some way, shape, or form.
In every level. Okay, and it's
Everything is though
imbalance.
Cancer,
Yeah.
of course, because it's such an extreme, scary for all the things condition imbalance. You know, but
Extreme imbalance. Wow. Okay, and to approach and treat that, it's getting back into the balance. So you would check the pulse, the tongue to see what is out of balance, and then start going into
of course.
helping rebalance
And then it
that.
depends on that person's, their constitution, their condition, what's happening, because there isn't just one way. Which is also why I know that modern medicine is also looking at the treatments and have done amazing advancements also to being more specific to that individual.
Yeah.
Because you can't just kill everything and then not expect to have side effects from that.
That's true. That
You know?
it is.
When to do, when not to do.
I worked in oncology for so many years.
Yeah.
And, I'm watching a show on Netflix called Apple Cider Vinegar. Have you seen it?
No, I have to see this.
It's
Okay.
with Belle, I think her last name's Thompson, an Australian influencer
Okay.
who faked having brain cancer
Oh, goodness. Okay.
to sell her app and her program. And she got
maybe I
really
have heard
big. And
about
people,
this.
this
Oh,
was
my
a few years ago,
goodness.
and people were like buying into it. It's like kind of when Instagram was coming out and everything.
Right.
And then she got caught as like never having cancer.
Yes.
But the whole show is bringing me back to like, I haven't been in the cancer world,
Yes.
but some of what the doctors are saying, the technical language, I go, oh my God, I feel like I'm back in my residency.
Yes.
And it makes me think like, wow, if someone I love,
Right.
I hope never me, gets cancer, hopefully I'm doing all the things to
Of course.
like how would I approach it,
Yes.
Because in the show, there's this girl and she goes
Right.
down the traditional, non-traditional route, conventional route. And it always comes to mind, it's like the conventional route is far from perfect. And we have to stop thinking that it is.
Right.
But there's a place for it. Like you said, the
Yes.
modern advancements, there's a
Absolutely.
place for it. I think it's really important to approach it integratively.
Yes.
You can't just go down this road and
Yes.
go, that's treatment for cancer.
Right.
You got to look at it on
Which
every
I feel
level.
like I certainly am in a bit of a bubble, which I don't usually find myself saying, but I'm in a bit of a bubble of, the people that I
Yes.
speak to. And when I, even when I'm speaking to, I'm the one educating. So that's what I mean by the bubble. But I will say that I'm pretty certain that it is becoming known that the integration of the different practices is vital.
It has to be.
Is necessary.
It has to be. And-
Definitely much different than 20 years ago.
Yeah, and
Kidding?
unfortunately, we're just then 20 years ago. Yeah, and
Major.
then just going down one route.
Yes.
So I love like learning about different disciplines and how
Yes.
they view things like cancer and
course.
really big chronic diseases.
Of course. And remember, in Eastern medicine, for example, we don't call it cancer. We don't call it this or that. We look at the person, any condition for that matter, right? And we look at the person and we diagnose them according to their condition.
Yeah.
So we don't walk around saying, oh God, I'm just going to say all the trigger words right now, like COVID or like,
Right.
or whatever you want to call it. We
Yeah.
don't say that. It's like, that's this kind of, there's pathogens,
But
there's
that's
all the
important.
things,
But that's
yes.
important because the body doesn't care about the name of the diagnosis.
not at all.
It's behaving on certain principles and
Yes.
adapting
Yes.
to the experience of what it's given, right?
Yes.
And so like to me, that's the art of medicine again. It's
Yes.
like, who cares a diagnosis? Like, can we fix the body?
Right. Or maybe we're getting away from it. We
Getting
wish
away
to
from
have a diagnosis because it helps us understand more what's happening in that individual's body and mind so that we can rebalance it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and then we just attach to these diagnoses, these words, as you said. I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. And we forget all of the other things. How'd you get there? How is it expressing in you? You know, how are we going to treat you?
That's the problem. We attach, especially in mental, emotional, when we attach to those disorders, we stick with them, we identify with them.
And then it's like you manifest it. Our minds are so strong, especially that. I'm so happy you said that.
More disease. Yes.
I love how Eastern medicine talks about mental type of imbalances, right? It's like your Shen is disturbed.
Shen?
Like calm your Shen, calm your mind. Shen is spirit, but not in the way that we're thinking of. It's literally part of like you have your liver and your gallbladder and you have your Shen. And like herbs, like when you look at the Materia Medica, it will literally say like this herb calms your Shen. You know?
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Goji berries have a calming aspect to your Shen.
Okay, cool.
And so Shen is in your eyes. And so you can see someone right away. I teach my boys this. Actually, my father, I've never shared this. He used to, I was, from the time I was young, if he was watching TV, he called me Munchkin. Munchkin, come here. I'd run over.
Yeah.
Do you see that person on the TV? And he'd teach me. And so like
what
it became,
to look for.
Yes. I can't even tell you exactly, but my entire life, that's one of the most important ways I believe I also learned, aside from the books and the practicing in clinic and teaching and educating. That's how you just keep looking at people and connecting. And
this is something that I do, and I wonder if if it's the same like essence. I can sense what emotions the person is holding inside. On TV, walking the street, I can sense that, and it all comes back to, and it's really the eyes. I was like, what is it that I'm sensing? So like I'm looking, and then I'm like, I had my hand on one of the magazines, and I go, oh, it's the eyes. That's what I'm sensing.
Yeah,
it's
the Shen is so important.
So that's
of course,
what
it's the whole being, but by nature, you're making me think of things that I don't usually communicate. So I want to say them correctly, but absolutely, the eyes, and that's like that's how this started. That's your Shen, and so like you calm it. Or like, there's certain acupuncture points or even acupressure points that you can start to calm that.
Yes.
You can liken it to the nervous system if that resonates with people. But I love how they say that. It's all about calming. And that, I love that phrase.
Yeah.
They were very thoughtful about the words that they used to diagnose, whatever was happening in the body.
Yeah, they did something right. I don't know what we're doing out here.
Are you kidding? Then they have the Chinese characters and half the, whole country does not even know what the one character, but it's like a whole story.
Qi, behind one character.
The character for Qi is like the rice in the cauldron with the fire and the vapors, and the vapor is the Qi. And like, so to understand that one character, you like spend your whole life. But,
that's so cool.
Yes. That's why we live in a day and age now. Forgive me if this is coming off extreme, but I suppose this is how our conversation is going today. But, it's like they even call me like the master formulator. I'm a master herbologist. I'm a master, Qigong practitioner. Do you understand the lineage I come from? You do not throw this word around. So I have to balance as well. Like, oh my God, to call yourself a master or an expert, to study one herb. They say you should spend a whole lifetime studying one herb, one ingredient, one technique.
And you got hundreds and hundreds.
Yes, a martial artist, My brother's an amazing martial artist. He was taught, go outside, do this 10,000 times.
Wow.
Like, go cook 10,000 times and then come back in. Like that's how, honestly, we were raised in San Diego. It's not like my father, you don't even know this yet, Dr. Gonzalez. Okay, it's in my book, but I'll give you my book. My father learned all of these things in the mountains of Korea.
Cool.
Like actually, even he's my own father, so close to him. From the age of 7 to 14, he was in the mountains of Korea. Can you imagine? My son is 7. My other one's 11. I look at them sometimes. I was like, I want you to know that your grandfather was literally fighting tigers. Okay, so like I want to hear it.
Amazing in the mountains.
I mean, it's like a movie, but it's the truth. That's how at that time. And still to this day, you would be sent, or you would go to the temple. You'd have your master. My father had a very powerful teacher or master who taught him the 3 M's, had a few, but there were one in particular, Master Bodhian, who's in the book, because I kind of switched back and forth to how he learned in the mountains of East Asia, the 8 keys, and then to the best of my ability, bring it into modern life. But this isn't so far, how can I say, like he was the one in the mountains of Korea. He came to America, and now I'm learning this. It's not like it's, thousands of years ago.
He was just in the mountains.
Yeah, literally the last generation.
Not that long ago. So the last part of what I really wanted to touch on is in this Eastern medicine, do you believe that emotions can get stuck in the body, and are they in certain parts of the body? And what do you find where certain emotions usually are?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We carry through all this. Now, I am of the Tao, so you'll find why I'm quiet for a second is that I won't even attach too long to that understanding while I completely acknowledge that That is accurate, of course. So like even our organ systems all have an emotion attached to the organ pairs. So in our whole body, we have organ pairs. Like I said, the spleen and the stomach. I'll give that as an example. Worry is the emotion for the spleen and the stomach. Worry equals fear. Huge one in our society. That's one of the reasons we say in Western culture, we have a lot of spleen deficiency. Of course, it's the way that we eat, or middle deficiency, or imbalance. It's the way we eat, it's the things that we put into our body, all of those things. But also, we literally live in a lot of ways, in a lot of worry and fear. There's other parts of this world. This is where I sometimes have a hard time in these conversations, but that live in a state of worry and fear much greater than we could ever imagine, but it's part of our lifestyle, And so that's one emotion, but that's how much they acknowledge that it is mentally, physically. So let's put emotions into kind of that mental aspect of things. And physical are completely connected. Absolutely. So
Always
of course
connected.
it can sit. That's why even, once again, the herbs the supplements I create, even the things we put onto our body, that all affects how our body is able to purify and process through that, right? Anything not good for us. The movement too. A lot of the movement I teach and what I practice myself is scanning the body very quickly. You're not sitting there overthinking with our mind, oh, this happened to me. Oh, it's because of this person. It's because of my generational trauma. It's because I'm but sometimes I think people get too stuck in that. And it's very, very dangerous. It's literally just breathing in, exhaling, and just in the back of our mind, seeing ourselves calming and feeling if anything feels amiss. That's it. Just something feel off, because if so, you push it down in your mind into the floor. That's what I teach, into the earth, because the earth can neutralize it. It's not going to hurt the earth, but it's literally a way that we can, even through a moment of movement and breath, kind of remove that from our body. Or when I go in a lot of the events that I do where I teach these movements, after I will go around and press certain acupressure points. That means I'm directly touching you. As a doctor or practitioner, this can be very, very important, because you are now exchanging in a much more intimate way. Literally, I'm now touching you, right? And actually, I'm happy I'm bringing this up, because I don't know if a lot of doctors, practitioners of any kind understand this in this culture, but it's important to literally wipe it away, wipe it off. And you can do that. In between each person, you'll see, I'll wipe it off, I'll shake it off, just with intention, because it's all chi.
I when I do somatic, I always make sure, even while I'm working with the person continuously, but I came intuitive. But it's funny that you say that now that I'm hearing
it's
that.
Very important. And then there's a fine balance of not overthinking it. Because that's why this is hard to teach.
The
second
story.
you overthink it, it attaches more. You're like, oh
you just
gosh,
stay
that
in the
was
whole
silly.
story. I know it's what we love doing, is like overthinking and getting to the why.
It's exhausting. I refuse.
Okay. You mentioned your book.
Yes.
What's the name of the book again?
Myeongsang, The Korean Art of Living Meditation. Just remember living meditation.
Okay. Myeongsang sounds so nice.
Oh, I'm glad you like that, because it might be going away soon. But
okay.
because it's hard. And I say that, but yes, whatever resonates. But it's a living meditation.
Okay, beautiful.
Watkins and Penguin Random House. So
I love that. Congrats on that. That book is out. It's been out.
Yes, it's been out, and I'm working on my second one, which is why I'm saying this. So.
Okay, and when does the second one come out?
Oh, goodness. February 2026 is when it's due for me. So around that time.
You're going to be
I'm
crunching.
not joking. When I say I live by the Tao, Dr. Gonzalez, it's like I am here right now, and for my next event, I know it's there, but I will look at where I have to go after we complete. And that is me practicing what I preach.
That's it.
Prioritizing and being present. So
now your herbal supplements, does that only come with, is it professional brand, or is it can anyone get it?
So, okay, long story short, I have JBK Wellness Labs, named after my great-grandfather, and we're contract manufacturing, which means we make the products for the brands you see in Sephora, Credo, Whole Foods, Ritz-Carlton. So we are behind the brands.
Gotcha.
Although I'm excited to say that for decades now, people have wanted me to kind of come out with some products. And finally, I'm putting together, it might even be limited edition, but some of my hero products that I know people love, branded just under Dr. Jenelle Kim. I'm calling them longevity potions. Ooh. And that's because 20 years ago, they'd be like, what are those potions that you, I'm some kind of with a cauldron in the back. And I was like, all right, I'm leaning in. I like this.
Yeah. Amazing. We'll keep an eye out for that.
Thank you.
Where do we find more of you?
You can certainly find all of this on my website, JenelleKim.com. I'm definitely on social media. I've embraced it because I can reach everyone.
That's it.
Particularly Instagram is where I will engage more personally. I have my show, The Experts. It leans in on speaking to the experts.
Cool.
Yourself, you're probably going to be one of them.
I
very,
can't
very
wait
soon.
for that.
I can't wait either. But that is very special to me because it really is hearing like the people who truly have done this and are experts in their field. So the point is to take away the overwhelm, to cut right through to the source.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work, your passion, your wisdom. Thank you to the elders and masters that have came before, because they've instilled a lot of goodness and rich education and knowledge that now you're giving to the people, which is really empowering. This is like, you see a need for like the people. And
Yes.
I love that because I feel that same way.
I know you do.
And thank you for the wisdom here on this show. I learned so much.
Oh, that means so much to me. I'm so grateful to be here. And that's all that matters to me. Let something be helpful and effective.
Appreciate it.
So I appreciate you for doing the same.
Thank you. Thank you.